day the rains came and kept coming until a downpour became a disaster. Floodwaters so severe they washed away previous records and tore apart homes and families.
For San Antonio and neighboring towns, it was a day of hell and high water, a day South Texas will long remember and that many can never forget.
Hello, I'm Jeff Brady.
And I'm Ursula Perry. It began as a cloudy but quiet Saturday. Yet before the day was done, it would be a day unlike any San Antonio and much of South Texas had ever seen. A stunning record rainfall, the trigger for deadly and devastating floods.
It's a story of great tragedy, but as with every tragedy, there are also heroes. These are the stories left behind in the wake of the great '98 flood. The victims, the heroes, the survivors.
The pictures tell the tragic story of the great '98 flood. Hundreds of homes soaked and beaten, and hundreds more simply gone. The possessions and belongings of a lifetime washed away. Families mourning loved ones killed by the merciless flood. From San Antonio to Seguin, from Cibolo to Cuero, New Braunfels down to Victoria. Across 24 Texas counties, the pictures and the story were the same. Neighborhoods ravaged, entire towns drowned, lives simply torn apart. To those who witnessed it, suffered from it, and lived through it, there is no doubt. This was quite simply one of the worst natural disasters Texas has ever endured.
The first signs of the flood's deadly and damaging impact came here in San Antonio and in surrounding communities. The rain poured down for hours, as much as 27 inches measured in some places. And even before the rain stopped, the flooding started, first in local creeks and low water crossings. Dozens of vehicles trapped in the fast rising waters, cars and homes washed away, lives lost. It was devastating and tragic, but only a sign of the disaster ahead. This is how KSAT 12 news reporters and photographers covered the catastrophe and the heroism as the flood rushed through.
Day arrives in a driving rain. And before long, the rain is about the only thing still driving. Water rises fast, swamping countless vehicles. Here it is several feet high, and this is a highway.
You live right around here. You ever seen this, do this right here?
Not this bad. No, I've never seen it flood this bad.
On streets and in water crossings, the flooding is even higher and far more dangerous. Cars dead in the water become islands, their drivers castaways in troubled waters. Rescue crews man boats to save lives, but in some places the water is too strong and too fast.
A wall of water apparently hit his vehicle and pushed him into some barricades, pushed him into some railroad ties or something over here. And he tried to get out through the window. He got trapped and he drowned.
By afternoon, this is the view from the air, a disaster in the making. Floodwaters rising and more rain falling. Some people gather to see what they probably thought they never would. Highway 281 underwater, closed. As the rains continue, the water and fear rise in an East Side neighborhood. A couple watches from their porch as the flooding inches closer. Residents wade through the threatening waters, waiting for the worst.
I wonder why you get an $80,000 house so much as nothing. This is it.
Across town, more flooding and more concern. A nearby creek is out of its banks, out of control. Firefighters move in to rescue trapped residents.
Use our boat to go out and retrieve the two gentlemen that were on the second floor of a house that had the first floor entirely flooded.
In and around San Antonio, every creek, every low water crossing is a danger zone. The flooding taking dead aim at anything in its path.
I've lived in San Antonio on and off since 1980, and this is the worst. I think I've seen it flood before, but this is probably the worst.
I only have one thing to say, and this city needs to work on its drainage problem.
In San Antonio today, already at least 2 dead, and the death toll, like the floodwaters, is rising. Marilyn Moritz, KSAT 12 News.
An alarming scene just inside Loop 410 today at Perrin Bidle and Briar Glen Drive. One stop and go gone, washed away by a rising Salado Creek, leaving gas pumps ripped up, street signs toppled, and neighbors in awe.
Passed by here about 3:45, and the store and the road was open. And now look, I can't believe it's stopping to go. It's gone.
Most of it, at least, leaving lots of tempting loot in the parking lot. Some passers-by just couldn't resist.
I don't care.
The current so strong here at high tide, it washed some cars from the convenience store parking lot down into the creek and blew out a brick wall on a nearby apartment complex. Evidence of Mother Nature stopping for no one and going just where she wants.
Golly, I just can't believe it. San Antonio is just flooded all the way around.
In the Willowwood neighborhood, hundreds of people evacuated jet skis, their only way out. Not by emergency crews, but by fellow neighbors lending their own personal watercraft to rescue men, women, children, even pets.
We took out probably 30 kids, probably 20 senior citizens, and I guess 80, 90 people are young kids and young adults.
It was a mission of mercy some residents believe was caused by the city itself.
That almost flood down, they claim it don't have nothing to do with it, but within an hour's time after they opened that flood zone, we was under the water. You know what I mean? And after 23 years and this ain't never happened, hey, that water coming from somewhere.
Dozens of homes flooded by fast-rising floodwaters that seemed to come out of nowhere.
When I opened the door the water just pushed it open. Waist high when I come out, and we start trying to get the older people, then the women, and then the kids out of here, and it's been a real tough task.
It was a frightening night for everyone involved. Some people stranded by floodwaters, reportedly filled with snakes.
Yeah, with snakes and all the tadpoles and fish and frogs, all of that alligators.
At the nearby KOA campgrounds, a similar story. An estimated 50 mobile homes and RVs swept away.
I was trying to get back over here to see if I could get it out at that time, but when I got here, the thing was over on its side, completely covered with water.
The Luna family stares at the very creek where disaster struck yesterday.
They took their car, and their mom and dad were hanging on a tree.
Swept away 6-year-old Miguel Jr.
Just waiting and praying.
Waiting and praying, all the family can do right now as the search continues.
We had a customs chopper up in the air. A couple of our emergency service unit members, we went down for about a mile, searched back up for a mile, crossed the stream. Right now, the chopper went to go refuel for gas.
Rescuers take a break, waiting for the water to go down. Miguel missing since 3 o'clock yesterday.
To be honest with you, it doesn't look good. There's a lot of cactus, a lot of fences and stuff out there. I don't think there's much chance.
This family is accepting that fact, but says they're still holding on to a hope Miguel will be found.
Water up to the windows, debris stacked 4 feet high against the fence. This is a flood like Lou and Alice Henry have never seen, and they've lived in Selma for almost 2 decades. Their home, a total loss.
It's all damaged, and it would cost more to fix it up, I think, than to replace it.
Many of their belongings are gone, some of it just down the street. From barbecue grills to their boat, they slowly recover what they can and count their blessings.
We're all healthy and fine. We didn't lose anybody, and that's a blessing. But I don't know where we start over.
There'll be time to worry about that later. For now, they're too busy just cleaning up and sorting things out.
Further downstream from the Henrys, an angry Cibolo Creek takes a swipe at another neighborhood, this one just outside Schertz.
The people living in these mobile homes just now returning to assess damage. When the water started rising, they got out.
Right after it got in the front yard, we all decided it was time to leave, which I think it was.
Up and down the creek, fences are down, debris scattered everywhere.
You think of water, you know, you go inside and you have mud and water, but out here, it's just everybody's trash and trash cans and everything.
Cleaning up that mess at this point of worry, but not as big a worry, is whether or not this creek will stay in her banks. Paul Venema, KSAT 12 News.
It's taking everything this boat has to fight the strong flood currents. 5 people pulled from a sinking boat trying to escape the flood are brought to the arms of worried loved ones by worn-out volunteers.
We've been out here since midnight, and we've had probably a 10-minute break so far, but it's worth it.
Toughest part right here. Getting wet, going in, cold water, but it's worth it.
Fire and police radios are crackling with emergency calls. This truck is serving as a barricade on Highway 87 to turn people back. It's one of the few places in town that is not underwater. Overnight, officials begin to wake up people in the path of the flood. Some just barely make it out as the water comes rushing up.
There was a wall of foam come through there first, and then all of a sudden the water just came up, like 3 foot fast. Because it came up to the top of my hood that quick. It was unbelievable how fast the water came up.
Some don't get out, sitting out the night in flooded homes waiting for rescue as loved ones wait for word.
And we've been worried about my mother-in-law falling off because everything they tried seemed to fall apart, but they're good Christian people. And I get choked.
Eventually, his prayers are answered. With all this devastation, Wilson County reports no major injuries or deaths. In Lavernia, Lee Dunkelberg, KSAT 12 News.
My mom was getting in the shower, and I noticed it had been raining on and off and going kind of high in the back, but I figured nothing would happen. And then it just started flooding in our house and everything.
This makeshift river showing no mercy, not to this parking lot, and not to these apartments.
It was raining real hard, and we looked at the back door, and it was starting to come up to the back door, and then all of a sudden just a wall of water come up there and knocked the complete back door out.
The Byrne family had just moved into the El Chaparral apartments. Today they got a new roommate, Mother Nature, crashing through the back door.
Brand new furniture I just bought, still paying on it.
Next door, same story. The door after that, the same as well.
All there was water and trash everywhere. There was about 1.5 foot of water inside the place, and everything that we had was just demolished.
We got most of the electronic stuff upstairs and saved it, but all our couches and everything's ruined.
From mailboxes lifted right out of concrete to cars swept away like sticks to rooftops no longer topping anything, the flood of '98 on the east side.
I had to remodel this whole thing inside, so it's all gone now.
Never in my life have I ever experienced anything like this.
Saturday's floodwaters washing away homes, washing away everything. That's not your car.
No.
Do you know whose it is?
No, it washed from someplace else.
In a matter of 20 minutes to an hour, water was actually really anywhere from knee to my waist high, inside.
And within minutes, it was this high. James Holt, his wife, his mother-in-law, escaping only with the clothes on their backs. What were you thinking the whole time?
Lord, bless me to get out of here.
And James seems to be echoing the feeling most have around here. Residents returning to nothing, but thankful for their lives. Michelle Lima, KSAT 12 News.
Rescue crews raft through Comanche Park Creek waters, not far from where the family had prayed.
And Lord, we're asking in Jesus' name that you lead us to our family, God.
A metal detector indicates something. The clinking sound and a subtle look. Divers find the missing family's Lincoln Town Car 10 feet deep. The despair deeper still. Overwhelmed, Justin Hartman collapses. The bodies of his fiancée and 10-week-old baby daughter Mallory have just been found.
We just want to take her home.
The family was headed home from a celebration, a wedding, when powerful floodwater swept and swallowed them up. A rescuer had seen the car go under, heard a woman screaming, but the car had vanished. Charles Ellis used to fish here with his lifelong friend, Richard Hartman. Now, he just stares.
See if I can see him come up, or just, I knew he had to be in there somewhere.
As the bodies are recovered, one more prayer. Rescue divers stand on the banks and bow their heads. After 5 days, the agonizing search is over. Marilyn Moritz, KSAT 12 News.
So many towns took a brutal beating from those floodwaters, but nowhere was the damage worse than in New Braunfels, a city that has literally built its hopes and dreams on the waters of the Guadalupe River suddenly felt that river's wrath. It happened with stunning speed and terrible consequences. A look now at some of the stories KSAT 12 News reporters and photographers found in the aftermath of New Braunfels' nightmare.
New Braunfels cleaning up, but Mother Nature not cooperating. In the middle of the downpour, the cleanup of what the Guadalupe and Comal rivers clobbered. Buried in the trash and muck are memories and homes for the lucky. For others like Mary Causey, all that's left of her house is its front stairs.
That is a stairway going nowhere right now.
The rest of Mary's house was swept downstream. Built on stilts, it was supposed to be able to withstand a hurricane. It couldn't stand up to the flood of '98.
Well, you can keep looking at it, but it's still hard to believe. You see this, it looks like a bomb went off or something, or a tornado. You see this on the news, but when you're seeing it firsthand, it's a little bit different.
You look over this way and it's not there anymore.
They've seen their beauty and now their fury. Those who live along the Guadalupe and Comal rivers spent this day cleaning and searching. For people like Linda Coble, whose home was completely swept away, any little discovery is huge.
That's one of my elephants.
There's no way I could explain what I felt when I saw this slab. It's just like, how can it be all gone?
Even those who still have a structure are cleaning out their homes this day, thankful for the volunteers who run the dozers and the brooms, but unsure of what lies ahead.
Well, I gotta say one thing, the Lord always has something for you. So I believe that. And with that in my mind, I just with these young people and this help, Lord, it can't get any better.
We are looking for memories, just things that are our life.
The flooded out areas of these rivers are under curfew again tonight, protected from looters. And there have been some. People who apparently have no problem taking from those who have very little left. In New Braunfels, Steve Spriester, KSAT 12 News.
We know it as a place to play.
Country of 1100 Springs.
Peaceful and clear this day, but nearby, evidence of a torrent that took out a parking lot, buses, and campgrounds at Rockin' and Green. They are burning what's left.
How in the world are they going to get that out of there?
At the Highway 46 bridge, a mountain rises from the river. It's a dump of decks and docks, too many appliances to count, tires, tubes, a stock trailer, trees, brush, and boats. And here's a house with a huge bite taken out of it next to a foundation wiped clean. But wait, there's more, as we count clean slabs in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
This is I-35 over the Guadalupe River, and you can see a giant shredding machine at work.
A giant grinder is making mulch, and lots of it. Stacks of firewood are beginning to pile up too, offering proof that those who were down under the water are not down for the count. From Sky 12, Sue Kalberg, KSAT 12 News.
I'm looking for my buried treasure.
4 days after they were flooded out, the search on the banks of the Guadalupe is still on.
You find little bitty crystal objects totally intact, but yet the lawnmower mangled.
Judy Flanagan uses a shovel to try and find anything in the rubble that was her home. Steve and Kelly Dean also lost their home, but were helped today by a crane, helped to get their crushed car out of the river.
Seeing my car, I started crying initially.
When I first got here, I was hoping it would wash down river so we wouldn't have to see it. It's a shame, but it's replaceable, and at least we got out.
All they found, a couple of CDs and a Maxima full of muck.
It's pretty devastating, but we'll pick up the pieces and go from here.
This area.
Rockin' River rides ravaged. For anyone who's ever taken a tube down the Guadalupe, this should be familiar in location, if not in scenery. Rockin' owner is on a cruise. He'll come back to find crushed buses, hidden vans, most of his buildings destroyed, and a piece of pavement far from where the rubber meets the road.
Looking for things. Just looking for what's left in the house before they probably mow it down.
At the Sleepy Hollow subdivision, Mother Nature delivered a knockout punch. This is Dick Carroll's home.
The roof on this house, I think, raised up and came back down.
The Guadalupe straightened out at this bend and went right through nearly all the homes here. Dick had to clear a path just to reach what's left of his front door.
Catastrophe. It was more than I expected with vehicles in the. I expected it to be bad, but not this bad.
All is saved. No, we just need help.
Well, we got help coming.
One of the state's most beautiful spots, scarred. With promises of federal money, Governor George Bush tours New Braunfels' hardest-hit areas from the ground and in the air. He is asking for federal help in 20 Texas counties, spending an hour and a half talking and comforting those who lost almost everything.
Oh, it's a terrible moment. God works in mysterious ways. Our prayers are with everybody in this part of the state.
It's nice to have a hug from him. Just knows that somebody else cares and that he cares.
New Braunfels senior Melissa Blaylock walked with the governor, a man who says he came to the banks of the Guadalupe to offer help and hope.
Just introduce myself and tell him that I knew somebody that he knew.
So now you're his escort, right?
She's gonna take me and introduce me, show me her house. I want to meet her mother and dad.
The governor called this the worst disaster he's seen since he's been in office. And as he walked through what the Guadalupe River washed away, others were still trying to find pieces of their lives.
The part of my life is gone. And we don't have insurance. I don't know what we're gonna do.
The brick fireplace, all that's left of Maria Daitan's home. Others found their belongings strewn miles down the Guadalupe River. Like many victims, Fred and Mary Lee Maxwell's life, like their car, has been turned upside down.
At first, we were just happy to be alive. Then we started crying about the stuff that we've lost. And the longer it goes on, the less you can sleep at night.
It's hard to imagine how swift and powerful the current of the river was to do the damage it did.
With help on the way, New Braunfels tries to heal. Steve Spriester, KSAT 12 News.
As the floodwaters left a stunned and battered New Braunfels in their wake, they next took dead aim on Seguin. Downstream and right in the path of the mile-wide monster the Guadalupe River had become. And again, the flood brought damage, heartbreak, and death. Now the images and stories from flood-ravaged Seguin.
Mother Nature skips from home to home in Seguin, flattening some, leaving others standing.
What happened, it all got at flood. All these houses were underwater.
And here's what's left. Just look inside. And look here. This was a bedroom. This, a bathroom. Mud everywhere, seeping through this toolbox. People use tractors and wheelbarrows to clean up, wondering when help will come.
We haven't seen any kind of help yet.
Well, we need volunteers from wherever. If they're dry and we're wet, please come and help them.
Another problem, water contamination. People come here to this HEB relief site for drinking water.
We don't have any drinking water. We don't have any water to bathe, to wash up, to clean up. It's gotten really bad.
And it could be going from bad to even worse. There are reports of looting in Seguin. The National Guard is here to try to keep things under control, while residents try to pick up what they can.
Found stuff down by the river. It's washed away, so I'm just picking through here for keepsakes and mementos.
It is big, bad, and ugly. The Guadalupe River turned liquid monster. Look closer, debris. It looks like a landfill, but the pile is the house that was once home on top of this slab. This is the sky view near Seguin. Homes pancaked, obliterated, or just gone, washed off their foundations. A double wide snapped in two by the weight of the water. National Guardsmen patrol what looks like a war zone. And look closely at that rooftop. That's a cow. The mud is thick as the emotions. This was home for Sandy Allman, who got out with all she could think to grab.
2 microwaves and a love seat and a chair. And I didn't even think about getting my clothes. All my clothes was left.
Tears flow where the Guadalupe went wild. Mounds of debris, piles of boats tossed on end. The water's so powerful it ripped off brick veneers and wiped this entire house off its foundation. The toilet, too.
Hundreds of homes are ruined top to bottom. Take a look at the ceiling up there. That's the insulation dripping
On the floor, take a look. Mud, ankle deep in mud. It is a day for cleansing, stuff, and soul.
I wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for her. So I didn't go to school today, so I'm over here helping her. And I'll keep helping until she gets it done.
That will take time and faith.
Well, the Lord's watched out for me all these years, and He's not about to quit now.
The mud they can wash away, and memories, this community is making new ones. Marilyn Moritz, KSAT 12 News.
Lifting debris, dealing with mounds of mud, throwing out damaged furniture. It's the never-ending work these volunteers have been tackling for a week and a half.
Until you walk in the front door of a house that's still full of furniture, still full of mud. That's when it hits you. Pictures everywhere, appliances turned upside down. That's when the realization of the violence of the river hits you.
It's hit the owner of this home so hard, her brother says emotionally it's too difficult for her to be here.
With the water damage, the silt and the mud, and then probably some raw sewage being mixed in with it and stuff. It's not a pleasant thing.
And now, within 2 or 3 weeks, many of the homes in these neighborhoods are coming down. They can never be lived in again. Demolition crews are already at work in some areas of Seguin. Mother Nature did the demolition here. 3 slabs remain where houses used to stand. One of the houses ending up in this front yard.
We've got at least 13 river communities, and every one of them got substantial damage. Some houses are gone, some were filled with water.
This house is coming down too. Once a home, now just a damaged structure. Nancy Gonzalez, KSAT 12 News.
To many people, it seemed the record rains that day came out of nowhere. But in fact, our Steve Brown warned us the night before there could be big trouble on the way.
But what exactly happened to cause such a disastrous rainfall eruption that day? Just how much rain did we get? And how many records were washed away? Steve Brown now with the answers.
A lot of people have asked me what the ingredients were that made the big flood in 1998 a reality, and there really isn't any single ingredient that you can point your finger at. They're actually a combination of ingredients. Number one, a powerful cold front coming in from the west. Not too unusual, we get these in October. But this cold front was a little bit extra strong, and it also was moving very slowly. Ingredient number two, again, this is not too unusual, Gulf moisture coming in off the Gulf of Mexico. This was a little bit unique because the Gulf of Mexico was extra warm this October. That because of the hot, dry summer we had, and water temperatures were still in the low to mid 80s out here in the surf off of Corpus Christi. So a little bit extra warm, a little bit extra moist. But the third ingredient was a Pacific hurricane named Madeline, and this was icing on the cake. This was the straw that broke the camel's back, as all 3 ingredients, the slow-moving cold front, the Gulf moisture from the extra warm water, and the moisture from the Pacific hurricane all converged right on South Texas, particularly between San Antonio, New Braunfels, Austin, out toward College Station, unleashing anywhere from 1 to 2 feet of rain, just unprecedented in weather records. Taking a look from outer space, there's Hurricane Madeline. That's what it looked like. You can see the moisture coming up across Texas, but really from this wide shot where you look at the entire Earth, nothing looks too earth-shattering here, but the moisture from Madeline definitely beaming up in on South Texas. What was incredible were the rainfall records, and just keep in mind, we've been keeping records in San Antonio since 1885, so these records go back a long time. The one-day rainfall record, the old record was almost 7 inches. It was set way back 1921, September 9th. The new record, October 17th, 1998, over 11 inches. That just shattered that one-day rainfall record. The 24-hour rain record, this is a little bit different. It sounds the same, but it's a little bit different because this may go over 2 days from like 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. the next day. The old record, just a little bit more than 7 inches in 1973. The new record, almost double that amount, 13 1/3 inches, October 17th, 1998, 17th and 18th. And for the month of October, it turned out to be the rainiest ever recorded in San Antonio. The previous rainiest month ever was September 1946, over 15 inches of rain. The new record, 18 inches of rain, October 1998. So these records go down in the weather book here as something we will not soon forget. And it was a combination of ingredients that caused the big flood. Hopefully, it's a combination of ingredients that we won't see again for a long time.
From the air, the sight was breathtaking. From the ground, though, the sights were heartbreaking. South Texas is literally a swamp filled with the shattered ruins of what used to be homes, businesses, whole farms, and futures. The downstream damage as the flooded Guadalupe and San Antonio rivers surged down toward the Gulf. Days after the floods brutalized San Antonio and nearby towns, the waters reached new targets. First in the flood's path, Cuero, a small town facing big trouble.
About a quarter of this town was underwater. The downtown area and hundreds of nearby homes hit hard. The people hurting.
The part of the town that got hit, they didn't have much to start off with, and now they've got even less than that. And it's words just can't describe it.
Joe Anzualda's words tell a tale of despair.
We moved everything up, but it didn't do no good because it got all the way to the top. So we lost everything we had.
This is Highway 72 that goes through Cuero. No cars on this highway today. The only way you travel it is by boat. The roads that aren't underwater are lined with people trying to get back home.
Bring them out. Come on, sir.
Looting forces the National Guard into Cuero. Special permits, the only way you'll get in.
If they're stopped and they don't have a permit, they're going to leave one way or the other. They can leave on their own, and we'll give them a place to spend the night.
Tough talk here, but also concern and compassion.
In a town of 6,700 to have that many homeless, real problem. Yeah.
But there is some good news. No deaths, no injuries. Even the cats stuck in trees and dogs on rooftops survived. In Cuero, Paul Venema, KSAT 12 News.
Good talk. This is my son's room.
Reverend Raymond Mays says this nightmare was revealed to him in a dream weeks ago.
I had a dream that the clouds had gathered, and in the clouds, a face appeared. A voice said to me that the time that was will be no more.
What is no more is the city he called home, changed forever, a change that came swiftly.
I didn't think it'd be anything like this until we saw the water coming from this area over here, and it was just like moving in real swiftly, you know. So my husband was saying, I think we better get out of here.
Leaving behind their house and everything in it. Katie May says she didn't see it, but they told her that during the height of the flood, there was a cow up there on the roof of her house. A relative had been watching TV and saw the livestock on rooftops.
He could only see the rooftop of the house, and there was a cow on top of the house. And I said, are you sure it was our house? He goes, yeah, I recognize the neighborhood there. It was your house.
One of the few light moments in a dark day for Cuero, a city now digging out and digging for faith.
What do? Just wait on the Lord.
In Cuero, Paul Venema, KSAT 12 News.
One person's junk is someone else's spare part.
That light there is real valuable and is not cheap. And we probably have those floating around the whole yard, and it'll take days just to find what washed out.
By a torrent of water 6 foot deep, strong enough to wedge a gasoline barrel here and toss another 500-gallon container over here.
But it's still full, but it just washed it over there and set it down.
It also wreaked havoc on all their office equipment.
Maybe we can salvage some of it, maybe we can't.
Also wiped out most of their vital inventory and financial records.
I found a few checks, so we were able to pay our employees today. And that's about all we have left.
His employees grateful he was able to do that much for them because there are still bills to pay.
And all of a sudden, we didn't have a budget. It went down the drain. But getting paid, it sure helped out.
They'll have their work cut out for them trying to save a business that took 30 years to build and only minutes to destroy.
If we can gradually get back on our feet, we may, we're going to try. It's going to take a long time, and I'm not sure we can do it.
By the time the Guadalupe closed in on Victoria, there was little doubt it would tear the town apart. The river was now several miles wide, more than 50 feet high, and all Victoria could do was wait and pray. A city that's no stranger to floods had endured more than one disaster over the past several years, but no one was ready for this flood. the worst Victoria had ever seen. It would be days of devastation and pain.
This is not how Charlie Wilkes and his wife had intended on leaving their riverfront home. In fact, they had wanted to stay put, since they say the Guadalupe was still 2 feet from reaching their front door.
They just told us what was going to happen, and it's going to be bad, and we'd been idiots to stay.
This fellow's rescue comes by boat. Same story. He says he thought he could ride it out, but now...
When all this crap gets over with, I'm going to find me a hill and move right on top of it.
One by one they were brought in, although there are still those refusing to go to higher ground.
We saw a person in a two-story house that basically waved us off and then gave us the okay that they were okay, but that's not good thinking on their part.
The mayor of Victoria says by air he saw 600 to 700 houses underwater.
The width of the river is spread out now probably 5 or 6 miles along US 59 to the south of us.
The same river is now in homes in Victoria's historic district near downtown. Many, fearing the worst, moved out of their homes Monday. Others waited until the last minute.
The only thing that we got out, it was my favorite piano for 20 years.
The Guadalupe, usually blocks away, has now found its way into their neighborhood. The flooding, the worst in Victoria's history. Rescue after rescue. Even a young woman in need of medical attention who had to be airlifted because there was no other way to get her across the Guadalupe, now 5 miles wide.
When it comes to rescues, it doesn't get any more dramatic than this. 64-year-old Larry Crisp plucked from his roof and ferried across a couple of miles of raging river in a basket.
Well, I think there's a whole lot of water around here.
Describe that ride down for us.
It wasn't too bad. I'd done that a long time ago in the service.
Others get out in less spectacular ways as power boats and airboats work their way through the neighborhoods. Marcus Sparks among the first out.
I was getting worried, getting pretty much worried. I was afraid something might happen to my family or something, my wife over there. We're getting turnover or something like that. And that water was swift. It was pretty powerful.
Sparks gets out with his 5 dogs, 2 cats, and a few belongings. A.J. Paterka, worried about his belongings, waits till the last minute to go.
Trying to save our stuff. We got new stuff and we're trying to save it, that's all.
But you finally just decided to come out.
Yeah,
time
to get out.
What made you decide it was time to get out?
Water in the house.
Well, what can you do? Now it's the chance for us to say, God, we are in your hands.
Sister Sylvia Gomez is trying to say what she can from Our Lady of Sorrows Church and Convent. All across town, they're packing up, saving what they can, and getting out.
Honey, are you gonna lock up? You got everything out at the front? With both keys and stuff. We'll see you later.
Ana Gonzalez and her husband among the last to leave her neighborhood.
It's kind of surreal. I feel bad for my neighbors who already have about 4 feet of water in their house, and so I don't think it'll hit me until I actually come back and see it in here.
There's a lot of neighbor helping neighbor going on in Victoria on this day.
We need some help. They can send but 2 guys up there to load that, and if you can get some help.
73-year-old Herman Kraymeyer, all too anxious to help out. He was just forced from his 100-year-old home, a home built by his great-grandfather.
I don't think there's any good news. It's terrible. Too many people are hurting. I just can't imagine that something like this happening.
A game warden and the director of the Texas Zoo on a mission of mercy. On shore, anxious volunteers and staff, some there when the floodwaters rushed in.
It was actually like the Titanic. It was scary.
The zookeeper, who had to be rescued herself, felt she was leaving her family behind.
It's hard to sleep at night and think about them out there.
Their worries lifted as the rescue boat returned with their precious cargo. Animals that had been on rooftops, including Suki, the potbelly pig.
We're optimistic now. I mean, those animals are okay, or the ones that we were worried about are okay.
Yet their relief is mixed with sadness over those now missing.
Red fox that we were all really attached to, and they didn't see her. That was a lot.
Well, that doesn't mean they just didn't see her. That doesn't mean she's not alive. She was on the roof.
But the rest, like Ricky the red fox, Elizabeth Barrett barn owl and JJ, the Mexican eagle, will join the others at a local veterinary clinic like the extremely rare red wolves, now extinct in Texas. But somewhere in the waters of the Guadalupe, 6 alligators from the zoo.
I have employees that need to be paid. I can't get to my payroll records. I can't get to my checks. I can't get to anything of that sort.
The owner of a lumber yard among those trying to get permission from the city to reach his business. A building inspector tells him, no way, not yet.
The power's going to be shut down because there's a lot of buildings in there that have moved off the foundation, various things, and there's damage and electricity, open wires, gas bubbling up out of the ground.
So all that people like Dominga Briones can do is look at her home from a distance.
Oh, desperate to get in there and get rid of, start cleaning up.
Although a few have managed to get in to do what they can, with who knows what is in the murky waters, there are serious health concerns, and that means keeping people out.
No, we knew this was going to be the hardest part of it, but, you know, if they'll just bear with us, we're doing the best we can.
Still a little muddy in here.
Talk about an understatement. This is what the Guadalupe River did when it rushed into the Catholic War Veterans Hall.
Notice I picked up the refrigerator and just kind of set it up on top of a table there.
There was 5 feet of water where just days before, state conventioneers had been dancing to live music.
We still had some band instruments set up over there. Of course, we don't have flood insurance, so we'll just have to start all over.
This simple blue sign, the green light many had been waiting for.
If they say we can come back in, like I said, we're going to start cleaning up and bring our furniture back.
His home spared the worst damage, unlike Victor Magallan's mud-soaked house. He says this soggy, smelly mess is an act of God he can live with.
We've been burglarized before, and that's a lot worse feeling, you know, coming in and seeing your stuff gone.
Yet, as you can see, there are still homes and buildings surrounded by water. And until they're inspected for electrical hazards or gas leaks, their owners won't be allowed in to see the damage for themselves. In Victoria, Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
I'm Denise Valdez. We have seen the destruction the flood left behind in San Antonio and South Texas. But something else has appeared in the aftermath, something truly special. The spirit of giving and lending a hand. Everywhere the floods left people in need, volunteers came through. Stories now of giving from the heart to help ease the hurt.
We draw a line there then. Very good.
Brittany and Burgundy get help with their homework, just like any other day.
Write it correctly.
But this isn't any day. It's 4 days after the flood.
We had to walk in the water. It was so cold. It was freezing. And then...
Were you scared?
Yeah, I was panicking too.
But you never think it'll happen to you.
Time can go by just like that. Nice shirts for me here.
Like many now living in shelters, this family left with nothing, except perhaps their stories.
When they told us to stay inside the house, that somebody was coming to get us, but the water got too high for us to stay in the house, because it was like right here to me.
Burgundy's family now trying to piece together their lives. Madeline thought she'd lost hers.
Water it's about a foot deep. We were sitting up there with legs up there.
This is all many of these people have left, a trash bag filled with clothes, a blanket, and a borrowed cot. Still, they say they count their blessings.
Then I found a place to lay my head. Place to eat. Place to go to the restroom. I have a lot to be thankful for.
Michelle Lima, KSAT 12 News.
Braun, grit, and heart.
He still got his eye and his beak.
They are college football players tackling one tough job.
I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it's just the most Christian thing they could do, and we're grateful.
Terry Lynn's riverfront home got blitzed by the Guadalupe.
They're going to be mattresses, and they're going to be real heavy.
A little direction from Coach and the Bulldogs of Texas Lutheran University huddle up and help out.
This is absolutely devastating. I've never seen anything that's horrible. A lot of people on the football teams, hopefully we can help these people get their lives back on track. We're trying to help them as much as we can.
It takes muscle to shovel out tons and tons of mud. When these guys are done here, they're going to move to another muddy field, the football field. They have practice in a few hours. Teamwork is something these guys know something about. They use it here, cleaning out an 80-year-old woman's ravaged home. She doesn't even know it. They don't do this to score points, but they do anyway.
I have a heavy heart and it got all light all of a sudden. Gonna be okay.
This day, the home team is a winner.
I'm gonna root them on forever.
Marilyn Moritz, KSAT 12 News.
The Lozano family is picking up clothes and groceries today, but they're not shopping. This buggy full of goods will cost them nothing.
I couldn't believe it until I actually was here. I was like, wow, got everything.
Everything they lost in the flood. The Lozano's mobile home in this park destroyed, along with all their belongings. But here, Diana can find some slippers, and baby Daniel can get a toy. James finds a jacket for the winter.
It doesn't matter to me what it is, as long as it keeps me warm.
The Lozanos can pick up sacks of groceries as well, and there's no limit. Any flood victim can take home as much clothing, food, and cleaning product as they need. This warehouse of items donated by generous San Antonians.
It's great. I didn't think there were so many people that, that actually cared and stuff like that. And they do. We wouldn't have all this.
There's really no way to measure how many tons of food and clothing is in this warehouse today, but we can tell you it took about 50 semi-trucks to get it here. And hundreds of volunteers of all ages to distribute it. Their only goal? Giving victims like the Lozano family the pieces they need to put their lives back together. Tiffany Mock, KSAT 12 News.
Building new lives from the ruin floodwaters left behind. It is the massive and heartbreaking task facing thousands of South Texans. Assistance from the government, from neighbors, even from strangers is the new foundation flood victims are building on.
Alice Ramirez is trying to rebuild her life. Her mobile home is one of about 100 here demolished by the flood.
Total devastation. It's horrible.
Yours is nothing that you can live in?
No, none of them are. All of them are total ruined.
Still, the city doing all it can to help this wrecked community.
Here we're going to be bringing our own troops in to assist with cleanup. We've got supplies, tools, and things as you can see on the back of the trailer here.
Today we're just going to try to clean up all this debris that's got back here by Quintana and Plumner. Basically, we just try to keep the road accessible there.
A command post is set up here all week. The Red Cross on hand helping with shelter, food, even nurses administering tetanus shots. Most here have no flood insurance. Their homes tossed and broken like matchstick houses. For example, the trailer that was sitting right here on this slab is now about 20 yards away on its side, and the trailer that was in the lot next door is nowhere to be found.
My trailer completely gone. I walked all the way to the bridge on the Leon Creek, and I can't even see nothing. It even looks like it.
What you can find are instant reminders of the flood in trees, fences, and yards. For now, victims like Alice can do only one thing.
Start all over again. Start all over again.
Tiffany Mock, KSAT 12 News.
It's hard to believe that this was only last Saturday.
For 14 years, RJ and Kim Thorson have lived next to the Guadalupe. But up on a hill, not in the floodplain. And they never thought this would happen to them.
That day wasn't so bad, but these 5 days have been an eternity.
Now the federal government wants to help ease that a bit through federal grants and loans.
You get through this. Go ahead.
Just one day after the president announces aid, the FEMA director assesses the damage himself.
And all that mud and muck and all that stuff is on everything, and it stinks, and cleaning it out and washing it out and tearing sheetrock off of walls, and it's in the walls, it's everywhere.
The first order of business, getting residents back on their feet. The second, prevention. FEMA is launching a pilot program in other states, one that eliminates risk before disaster strikes.
A disaster could happen, an event could happen to anyone at any given time in any community across America.
83-year-old Mary Wallace waits in line for assistance at the East Side Command Center.
Everything is gone. My mattress, I had bought a new mattress.
New television and everything, new washer and dryer, they all gone.
A diabetic and heart patient, Mary is staying with relatives with little to call her own.
I just need a place to stay. I need food, I need clothes. What I got on is all I have.
Her daughter and son walk her to the mud-filled home, even the mail coated with muck. Inside, beds are overturned, sinks filled with dirt, and clothing soaked with contaminated water. Anything salvageable is a precious find.
Got your glasses. I can see now.
This is the house the Wallace family has lived in for 20 years. Now, they are one of the few that has flood insurance, but Larry Wallace says, considering what's happened to his entire community, that insurance doesn't really make him feel any better.
I'm not relieved at all because this is a whole community that's wiped out.
The Wallaces do plan to rebuild, but amidst this devastation, it is tough to stay positive.
The frustration and the hopelessness, but I'm sure that they know that they have to go on.
Tiffany Mock, KSAT 12 News.
02670.
That huge organization, the Red Cross, takes on a monumental task.
It's just a mega thing. It's bigger than big. It's because it's so spread out.
47 Texas counties hit, creating long hours for Red Cross workers.
This is Jim.
Like Jim Todd.
Typically, the average staff person is putting in about 22 hours, sometimes more.
That's a day. Cleaning up will cost, it's believed, $10 million.
This is a pretty expensive one.
Strapping the agency still dealing with damage left from recent hurricanes and flooding in Del Rio.
This is one of the most disastrous, if I can say, disastrous seasons, years in a long time in Red Cross history.
The disaster keeping volunteer Roy Lucas cooking.
And this morning we cooked 2,300, and this afternoon we cooked 1,700.
Some 8,500 families in the San Antonio area were affected by the flood. Helping them is a huge task for Red Cross workers. Some of those workers were flooded out themselves. The San Antonio headquarters completely flooded. Some volunteers were flooded out of their own homes.
Long days. By day we do disaster, by night we clean chapter.
And despite the difficulties, workers have their reasons for giving relief.
I do it because I think it's the Lord's will. I think it's the Lord's will that I come out and do these things.
Oh, the adrenaline of knowing that San Antonio, and I'm part of that community, needs us.
There's something inside of us that says, you know, these people need help, and we'll be here to help.
And no matter how strapped, the Red Cross will stay camped out here as long as people need help. Holly Weymouth, KSAT 12 News.
The flood broke apart homes and it broke apart communities, but it could not break the spirit of those who lived through the nightmare. Even in the hardest hit areas, we found stories of hope and determination.
One house of worship empty this Sunday, only humming fans and warped wood. Another brimming with voices and survivors. Wheatley Heights worshipers moved their service, but say the great flood cannot move them.
I said to our people on Thursday night that this is a challenge. And when there are challenges, we have to rise to the occasion.
Lord, be a fence around me every day. No fence could have kept out the flood. Remember this? 1 week ago, an organ caked in mud, a church building deep in disaster. And today, it's not much better. But the people are determined and devoted.
It's been very tough. However, it seems that it's bringing people together, people that you usually don't see during the week. They've been at the church fixing food, cleaning up, and trying to get our church ready, you know, to help the community. So it's really brought the church together.
God is a good God. Even in the midst of your storms, Wheatley Heights, He's still a good God.
It's hard to lose your valuables, but it'll be harder to lose your child or your husband.
Today, her husband's playing the church organ. In fact, no one in this congregation was hurt by the water. And remember this? Last weekend, an anxious groom looking for his bride. Well, she not only turned up and got married, today she sang a solo to a congregation young and old, committed to recovery. A reminder then, from one church on the east side to all of San Antonio perhaps, that life does not consist in the abundance of things, but in the abundance of spirit, which for this congregation, one flood can never wash away. Jeff Grady, KSAT 12 News.
You can't drive a mile in Zool without seeing serious flood damage or the people trying to recover and salvage their belongings.
Just tables, stuff that mostly floated, and stuff that didn't get drifted away.
But this house is beyond being saved.
Gonna leave it. I guess they're just gonna move on, find a new house.
More than a week after the floods, getting around in this community is still difficult. Here, a heavily used road is blocked by what looks like a small river.
Got to go all the way around, take a long way around and all that.
Or are you just going to walk through the water?
Yeah.
Down the road, Redeemer United Church of Christ sits empty, waterlogged, but the congregation makes do with services at a nearby bowling alley. Followed by a fundraiser.
Part of the money that we are raising with the meal, with the auction, and that will also benefit flood victims and people in the area.
Besides money, what's needed here is time to fix roads torn apart like jigsaw puzzles and clear streets buried under the rubble. Till then, these residents say, one step at a time. Tiffany Mock, KSAT 12 News.
We know everybody. We knew every person we were going to get. And there were so many of them, it was just so overwhelming.
October 17th, 1998. Lavernia Fire Chief Kip Workman won't soon forget.
This truck was sent out to rescue some people on Dry Hollow Road.
But the water proving just too much.
The water got up to about this point, and the truck just wouldn't go anymore.
This truck goes in to help. Its skeleton now sits by the road, a haunting symbol of Mother Nature's fury. And at tonight's high school homecoming game, another symbol. This one of resurgence.
We're thankful for what we went through this past week, that nobody was hurt real bad.
The disaster that we had and everything, I guess brought us all a little bit closer to help everybody else out.
The future is very important. We'll build it up and we'll all still be together when everything is done.
The future also means lessons learned.
Somebody comes and tells you to leave, they're not crying wolf. You need to leave, because my people were put in danger to go and get people that were warned.
Be more prepared. Oh no, expect the unexpected, I guess.
Michelle Lima, KSAT 12 News.
This tunnel was John Newsom's prison during the flood.
I was totally submerged in water over my head.
As he tried to save a motorist trapped on this street, Newsom became the victim.
And then the current just grabbed me and twisted me around and sucked me down through here.
Through this drain, more than 100 feet, he says he held his breath for a minute and a half.
All we do is see the guy's head disappear.
This dentist across the street watched in disbelief. Newsom came out alive on the other side.
I told him he cheated death. I mean, for somebody to go through what he did, I don't know if anybody could hold their breath in a swimming pool and go under that distance.
Newsom credits swimming laps and practicing holding his breath for his survival and a sudden calmness that came over him.
Why do you think you felt that calmness?
I believe, actually, God was with me.
Newsom, not a religious person before, now has a strong belief in God and a new sense of purpose. He wants to volunteer and help people.
You know, I just consider myself lucky, one of the luckiest people in this world.
Holly Weymouth, KSAT 12 News.
For richer, for poor, for better, for worse.
Jackie and Joel, a love story that ends with better, but begins...
That's my fiance in the church.
On a dark and stormy night.
There's a frightened young lady with her bridesmaids in that church.
The bride stranded at the altar, just 3 blocks, but suddenly a river away.
I'm thinking, okay, God, we've been together for 9 years, and on the one day we're supposed to get married, this happens.
Floodwater is rising fast, so is fear.
They can't tell us where they are. They don't know where they are.
Once the water started rising and it started getting dark, my biggest fear was that they weren't going to see us in the dark.
I started walking down
you know, through the water, wading through the water. And when I got about chest deep, the current started to push me.
He's going to get a boat.
Went and got us a boat.
We came from the bridge and the barricades over there. We couldn't get the boat in over there. Yeah.
Current too strong.
Joe, be careful, Joe.
Oh, that's so sweet. I have to marry this man, so.
A rescue raft brings the little bridesmaids to safety.
He's still down there. He's still down there.
But Joel is still frantic to see his bride. Rescuers advise against using the boat.
Just give us a chance. I would just like to know where she is. Is she safe? Y'all can't even tell me that.
Help, help, we're over here, we're over here. By the time we left out of the church, it was about waist deep.
Here comes the bride, floating down the aisle.
Jackie!
Jackie!
All right!
That's my wife. Get the hell with that.
Better for worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
The flood of record. It's a term that designates the '98 flood as the worst San Antonio has ever suffered.
Now, many here wonder if the city was really ready this time, and will we be ready if there's a next time? City leaders have some answers to those haunting questions.
From the rains to the ringing out.
From beginning to end, things have worked pretty well.
That's Mayor Peake's rain gauge. He credits flood control projects which began after the other big one in 21.
We hadn't had the dam here, almost all of San Antonio would have been flooded.
Almost Dam. It's never handled this much water. Engineers say it worked as designed. Once the floodgates opened, the tunnels were put to the test. This new $111 million project sent billions of gallons under downtown instead of through it. One problem, though, large amounts of bulky debris clogged capacity. Still, the mayor says the tunnels kept several feet of water out of downtown. The area, though, is not flood-free.
This city needs to work on its drainage problems. That's it.
Which car's yours?
Truck up in the front.
The mayor says there is room for improvement, such as fine-tuning the city's warning system.
Nobody thought the water would get as high as it did. They said, well, we've lived here for 30 years, and we knew that it would get to a certain point, and that was all it was. And they did not want to leave their houses.
Marilyn Moritz, KSAT 12 News.
Though it is often painful to look back and see all the images of the terrible flooding, it is now a part of our history. So we not only look back on the devastation and the death, but we also look forward with hopes for better times and hopes that this disaster will make us all stronger as a community.
We'll remember not just the tragedy, but also the humanity, how our neighborhoods and communities suffered together and reached out to help those who needed it the most. While many hearts were broken, many more were opened. It's the spirit we share, the special bond that brings out our best when things are worst.
So this video is for all those who suffered from the flood and for all those who helped ease that suffering, for those who faced the danger with courage, and those who fought the floods, risking their lives to save others. For all those who have the hope to rebuild, and all those who have the heart to help them.
We here at KSAT 12 are proud to be a part of San Antonio and all of South Texas, and proud to join in the effort to help recover and rebuild together.